Last night I had the opportunity to check out The Batman starring Robert Pattinson. And there were a lot of things that I could really talk about with this movie. There are a lot of things that I really, really loved about it. But since this is going to be a non-spoiler review, we're keeping it very simple. Just kind of talking about the various things that I did like and some of the things that I didn't like so much. But to get us started off, I want to talk primarily about the story. This Batman film has one of the most interesting stories that we have seen in a Batman film in a while, and it's really driven by the fact that the main villain of the film, the Riddler, is so fantastically done. He was by far the standout for me in this movie, and it's a movie filled with a lot of fantastic performances, but he was the one that always had me intrigued whenever he was on screen. He was creepy. He was interesting. You understood where he was coming from. He wasn't just kind of this villain that's just trying to do things just because they want to, even though characters like that are fun, as we saw with the Joker in The Dark Knight. He just did things.
No, I just do things.
Riddler has a purpose behind everything, and he just is so fascinating how he drives it, and he drives the story. And that really brings to the story is a detective film. Unlike other Batman movies, it really focuses on Batman figuring things out and working his way through these crimes to find the Riddler. And in that sense, it was really, really, really awesome because we haven't seen that in a Batman film, really. We've seen aspects of him as a detective, but we've never really gotten to focus on it. Another thing that I really liked about the fact of his everything that he got to do as far as the investigation is that you get to kind of do it along with him as the audience. You get to hear the riddles, you get to see all the clues, and it doesn't just tell you things. You get to work through it with Batman, and so I like films that allow you to kind of figure things out for yourselves rather than them just telling it to you all at once. And so it was great that they did that. Really, really loved it. Like I said, there were a lot of fantastic performances in this movie. The Riddler, for me, was the standout. He was a fantastic villain. The Penguin was also extremely well done. I look forward to seeing hopefully more of him in future Batman installments. Batman himself, I didn't really know exactly what I was going to expect with Pattinson. I think Pattinson is a good actor. Didn't know how he was going to take the Batman. And it definitely is a different take, particularly with Bruce Wayne. The way that he treats Bruce Wayne and the way that Bruce Wayne acts in the world of Gotham, very different than what you see with the other actors who've played him. But it worked really, really well with this film, and when he plays the Batman in particular, he's awesome. I loved him when he was playing the Batman. He is brutal, he's gritty, and it's just a great, great take on it. Other characters that were also really good. Catwoman was a standout, as was Commissioner Gordon. They were all very well done, and all of them worked in a way that was really, really great. One of the things I liked is that Commissioner Gordon plays a bigger role in this film than he has in some of the previous Batman films. So that was super, super awesome. So that's kind of the story, and that's where it kind of is the standout for me in this movie. When it comes to the entertainment side of this film, it is very, very entertaining. Much of that entertainment has to do with the fact that the story is so well done. That's what makes it so fascinating and so interesting to watch. The other things that I found that always kept me glued to the screen is the way that the movie looks. It is so fantastically done. I loved the design of Gotham. I loved the design of all the characters. I love the way that they lighted things. It was just so cool to watch. It looks like a comic book film, and I really, really love that. I love the design that they gave to it. So those are kind of the things that really make it entertaining. There is action in the film. Obviously, it is a Batman movie, but surprisingly enough, aside from a few specific moments in which there are some really, really cool parts with Batman, the action really wasn't the standout in this film like it is with, say, something like Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck's action scenes were just incredible. These action scenes are really, really good, but they're just not nearly as good as some of the other Batman scenes you've seen. Like I said, this film focuses on the story. It focuses on him as a detective, more so than it does him beating up the bad guys. Because most of the bad guys that are involved, the main villains of this film, aren't your physical contenders. They don't go against Batman in that way. It's more of a mind game with the Riddler, with the Penguin. So it was fun to see that happen in this film. Now, if I did have anything that I would say was kind of an issue with this film, it is really long, and I'm not one who's against long movies, and this one for the most part does really good with it. It's paced very, very well. It keeps you very intrigued in the story all the way through. But there are some moments where maybe it dies down a little bit and you can find yourself feeling, okay, it has been a little bit, I really need to use the bathroom again or something like that. And so you do feel the length a bit at times, but it is extremely, extremely well done for the most part. And that's kind of my only one major issue that I had with this. I would have liked to have seen more action. I would have liked to have seen some better action as well, because I like the action. I think the Batman with the action is fun, but I think that it didn't really need it in this film, and so maybe in sequels we'll see a little bit more take place with Batman and his fighting if he takes on some villains that maybe are a little bit more physically capable of taking him on. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about with this film is that it is on the cleanliness scale, it's better than I thought it was going to be. I was actually a little bit worried going in that it was maybe going to have some things that we didn't usually want to see. I will say this, it is a very dark film. It's not exactly a kid's film. There are some moments that I wouldn't say there's exactly like creepy images, but the way that some of the characters are portrayed can at times be fairly creepy, and for younger viewers that might be a little bit challenging. The swearing, I honestly, I remember there being some F words, or at least one F word that I recall. As for the swearing in general, I don't remember it being terrible. I wasn't particularly listening for it, so it never really stood out to me. The action, again, is there, but it's not particularly bloody or violent action. It's your typical Batman style of action. And so the only other thing is there are some parts where they take place at a club, and there are some girls in that club doing some things, but the film is really good at keeping those things hidden. Most of the time they're kind of bathed in shadows, and all the ones that you do see though they're fairly clothed. It's not like they're super inappropriately dressed or anything like that. So it is done nicely that they kept it relatively clean, even though it is there just so that you know, but there's nothing that's extremely horrible on that scale. And so those are kind of the overall things that I wanted to share about, but let's go ahead and get into my final thoughts. So overall, this is a film that was very, very entertaining and a very, very well done story to bring the Batman back to the big screen. All of the actors that were involved in this movie did a fantastic job. I loved all of them in their particular roles. And it does so by maintaining a very clean atmosphere, if at times a little bit creepy and a little bit violent maybe, but it is overall a very comic book style movie. A little bit darker than usual, but nothing that you would expect or be really afraid to go see. It is a fantastically made film. Matt Reeves did a wonderful job with the way that it looks and how everything performs, and it is fantastic. Overall, if I was going to provide a ranking for this movie, I would give it an A. The only reason it doesn't quite get an A+ is there were some things that I would have liked to maybe see a little bit more of, particularly in the action side of stuff. But other than that, it's such a well-crafted movie. It definitely is one of my favorite films and will probably be one of my favorite films of this year. On the cleanliness scale, I'm going to give it a B. The main things that kind of stood out to me in this one is that it does have some violence, and it's the frighteningness of it. There isn't exactly like scary images per se, but there are some frightening things. Some of the villains can be creepy, the Riddler in particular, and so you got to watch out for that, particularly if you are going with some younger viewers. So those are my thoughts on the new Batman film. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie down in the comments, and if you haven't seen it, be sure to check it out. And as always, be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on any new content.